has surged. What do we think of that? Let's bring in the Liberal Senator Jane Hume. Jane, it's our favourite topic, you know, on a Monday morning. It's Newspoll and Resolve and all of that, so we'll return to it today. It's not good reading for your team, though. What's your reaction to it?
Pete, you won't be surprised when I say to you, as I always do, that I'm not going to comment on polls. Polls come and polls go. Polls are good, polls are bad.
Well, they're not very good for you guys.
On the way through. However, what I will say is that this isn't surprising, coming off the back of a pretty poor election result. And it also mirrors some of the trends that we're seeing right across Western democracies. When I was in the UK, for instance, just after the election recently, speaking to some members of the Conservative Party over there about how they did their big rebuild leading up to the Cameron government in 2010 and where things went wrong. And you can see over there now, Reform is the party that's getting the support, whereas the Conservatives seem to be on the retreat. And this is because the public are very frustrated when they feel that the party that they've voted for so long, that they've been loyal to for so long, perhaps has stopped listening to their concerns. OK,
well, if you want to read into that, I guess the comparison with Reform could be One Nation here. So how are you reading into that when it comes to your own policy formation? If you've got supporters of the Liberal Party who are now getting behind One Nation, do you have to change some policy ideas?
Well, I wouldn't be surprised if there was some movement after such an edifying week last week, but that doesn't mean that we can't now make sure that we listen to the community and reflect.
What do you mean by movement?
And do that with sensibles and well, I think that's exactly what the Resolve poll and the News poll has said, that some of while Labor's vote has stayed steady, the coalition's
vote. But I mean, like when you say movement, are you thinking changing ideas to become more conservative?
No, I'm sorry. No, absolutely not. We want to make sure that we stick with our values, but the most important thing we do now is develop a policy agenda that is reflective of of mainstream Australia.
Okay. When are you going to come up with some policies?
And that's the way to bring mainstream Australia back into the coalition. Well, hey, mate, it's a couple of months since the last election, and we've got a long way until the next election. I'm sure that there will be plenty of policies to announce. And in fact, I was very pleased to see Simon Kennedy, with whom I work on one of the coalition policy committees, now being elevated to the front bench. That is particularly good news. He's a very bright mind and a good heart, and I think he'll do a terrific job there.
One more before we get into this reshuffle. Is this a terminal decline, this News poll?
No, absolutely not. No, absolutely not. This is about the coalition finding its feet again after a terrible election loss. We've got a long way to go now before the next election. We've got a lot of ground to make up. But can I point out to you, Pete, too, that the Labor government's position really hasn't shifted here. A 36% primary vote, that's really not something to write home about. In fact, it means that their huge numbers in Parliament are essentially sitting on quickstand. Things could move very quickly indeed. We've seen it happen before. I'm absolutely certain it will happen again. But it's now on us to make sure that we get those policy positions right and make sure that we go to the next election with a genuine and credible alternative that reflects the views of mainstream Australia.
Jane, you mentioned that reshuffle on the weekend. Were any potential changes discussed with you?
No, they weren't. But I was very pleased to see, as I said, Simon Kennedy, who I work very closely with on the Coalition Policy Committee for the Australian economy, get elevated. And also my good friend, Claire Chandler, with whom I worked in Shadow Cabinet in the last Parliament. She's an extremely talented woman. I'm very pleased to see her come back, and I'm sure she'll make her way back to
But no
Shadow
Guernsey
Cabinet
for you. You're a former minister, Jane. No Guernsey for you. I'm starting to think this is personal.
Oh, Pete, maybe it's because I go on Sky every Monday at 6:45 in the morning and talk to you. No, not at all. It's I'm doing some very good work on the backbench. In fact, the backbench has given me an incredible opportunity to introduce a private senator's bill on tackling the gender super gap. It's given me an opportunity to speak out on things that are important to me, things like making sure that we not just oppose but repeal this horrible, terrible tax on unrealised capital gains that Labor are intent on introducing.
Do you think what you're saying is
and also
hurting you?
speaking about the importance of reducing emissions. No, absolutely not. And also the importance of reducing emissions, but at the same time bringing down energy prices, which is possible. Just because we move to a zero emissions future doesn't necessarily mean we need to follow the crazy ideology of Anthony Albanese and Chris Bowen. There are ways to do this that are economically beneficial.
I'm all for outspoken, by the way. But do you support the opposition leader, Susan Lee?
Absolutely. Of course we do. She's only just got her feet under the desk, Pete. Give her a break. She's got time now, before the next election, to develop that policy agenda that is a credible alternative to present to Australians.
OK. That's a big gap to overturn, though, Jane, right?
It's a big gap to overturn, but I am absolutely certain we have the talent available to do it.
Have you got your hand up for the next reshuffle?
I'm hoping that there isn't a reshuffle. What I'm looking forward to is a very stable opposition that gets on with the job of representing the views of mainstream Australia. That's our job now. That should be our 100% focus.
Jane Hume, keeping things bright this morning on this